Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Tottenham Hotspur Premier League preview. Joining me, as always, sometimes is my good friend and colleague, Alex Baggers. How are we doing, sir?
Not bad.
Yeah?
Not bad. Looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to it. Football kind of came back last week, but this is a proper game.
This is proper now,
This is
isn't
a
it?
proper football again.
You can have your Bryans and all that, and your Granadas and that sort of nonsense, but United versus Spurs or Spurs versus United, that's a proper game of football, isn't it?
Proper game. We need a good performance here because the last two games have been... We've got 2 wins and everyone's like, oh, it's just no good. But we need something to pick us up. And to be fair, I think we'd all take just getting through this game against Tottenham, especially what happened earlier on in the season when...
The result,
happened.
which shall not be named, although
shall not be
it
named.
will be named. It'll be named in a minute,
or
a little bit later on in this preview. But yeah, I know what you mean. Obviously, we had a bit of a beating, a proper beating, didn't we?
Absolutely.
Off him, one of ours. Is that our worst ever, joint worst in the Premier League?
We really don't want to talk about that, do we? Let's not bring that back up again.
Yes. But in terms of form, Manchester United going into this game, we're in, like you said, we've had back-to-back wins since we came back from the international break, and our form on the whole has been quite decent. There you can see there, Manchester United have lost only one of their past 17 matches in all competitions. So we're going into this, you expect to be relatively confident, playing against the Spurs team who are just Jose Mourinho, aren't they? Very erratic. Jose Mourinho of late, which is, just don't know what to expect with him, do you?
Yeah,
I know we're going to get into them a little bit later on,
Yeah.
but in terms of confidence and how you're feeling about this game, you look at our form and the way Spurs have been playing, how do you feel about that?
They should... I mean, I think Jose said you've seen all the stuff in his the documentary last season where he said this team is better than Manchester United. It's a better squad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of arguments for that, and I half agree. There's a lot of very, very good players in the Tottenham team, but they've not impressed me since early on in the season. They had a few games, and you thought, okay, Jose's got Son playing well. He's got Kane playing well. Didn't even need Gareth Bale, and they were doing well. Whereas these last few results, the Arsenal performance was dreadful. Was really poor against a poor Arsenal team. They got knocked out of the Europa League without really doing too much. They didn't look good at all. Was it conceding 3 goals away from home or something to get knocked out after being 2-0 up? So getting knocked out of there, they are frustrating. And then they draw 1-1 with Newcastle in the last. It's ridiculous. But United, he said, look at there, you got 4 wins. The loss to Leicester, rotated team against a full strength, rested, good Leicester City team. So for as much as people are going to pick bones out of that and say how bad it was bad. But they're a good team. They'd had a week off. They had more players than us fit. We rested Bruno, rested a few of the players. They were good, and for as bad as that is, look at the bounce back from there, where beating Brighton in the league, capitalising on all the teams that had dropped points around us, and then it wasn't great the other night, but we're through. We're not through, but we're near enough through. 2 away goals. It would be a collapse to go through. But things have been going okay. I was happy with, up until the Leicester game, I was happy with those 2 the West Ham and AC Milan results. We just need to kick on now and kind of get momentum going again.
No, we do. And if we are to do that, one man who's certainly going to have a big say in it is Mr. Marcus Rashford, who's just reached the milestone of 20 goals in all competitions this season. There you can see it there on the graphic. What do you make of his season? Because it's a bit weird, isn't it, with Marcus Rashford, in the sense that his performances quite often haven't been as good as they can be. Yeah. Sometimes his performances are more like 6 or 7 out of 10s. But no matter what, he seems to have this knack of either getting a goal or an assist. I think he's got 10 assists as well to throw into the mix there with those 20 goals. So it's 30 goal involvements if you're into that sort of thing. So he's very productive. It's just sometimes his performances are a little bit under par. We know he's carrying injuries and stuff like that, but he's a very effective footballer.
I do think so. I think he's been good this season. I think that, Maka said it the other day, when Marcus Rashford hasn't looked good all season and scored 20 goals. That's a good sign. Yeah, that's a good thing. It's not Marcus Rashford had a bad season. He scored 20 goals and not been his best. He's not been fit. He's not done all of that, but he's still scoring goals. He's still having very, very good performances. I think that the issues this season, I think that Paul Pogba being out, that link up on the left-hand side's kind of dwindled a little bit. I think they got that going. I think Martial as well, he was drifting out wide and being a lot more creative alongside Marcus last season. And those two together were looking good. I think we've lacked that. I think it's almost been more pressure on Marcus Rashford to deliver. And I think he has most of the time. I think that how he gets this rest, how he gets this operation, I don't know. Don't know when they can manage to do that because he's going to go to the Euros.
Yeah, there's sort of I think Henry Winter was saying he penciled it in for after the Euros, so it's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze after the Euros.
And if we've not strengthened the squad, we're going to be in a bit of trouble there. But in terms of that, I don't know when he's going to get that. If we can coast him through this season, if we can get what we've had the last 2 games out of him, which is 45 minutes to 70 minutes where he's scoring goals and contributing to the team, and then maybe you have to bring him off. If he can manage that, we need him to do that because it's not looking like Martial's going to be fit for a long time now. Cavani's, you don't quite know what you're getting from him at the minute, and Mason and Dan James, 2 young lads, you can't really be relying on them for the one scoring goals. But Marcus has kind of taken that on and said, look, I'll score the goals for you. I might not be fit, I might not be able to put in 10 out of 10 performances, but I'll get the goal side of it done.
I'd much rather have that way round than the other way round, him performing a little bit under par. It might sound like we're being harsh on Marcus Rashford because he is my favourite player. I love him to bits. But I think you've got to be honest about his performances. We know, you look at the Liverpool game in the FA Cup, that's a fantastic performance with a goal and an assist. He's had games that have been sort of well off that sort of standard, and I don't think there's any controversy in that. You mentioned Dan James as well there earlier. Dan James, who's having a decent spell. He's getting quite a few games. He's had some really good performances, got some goals as well, got involved in a lot of what's been good about Manchester United of late. He seems to have gone through a little bit of a roller coaster, done he, as a Manchester United player. Had that phenomenal start, which was like scoring goals early on in his career. Obviously got a couple of goals at Old Trafford. Everyone was raving about him, like, wow, 15 million's looking like a bag, already. Tailed off massively, had a big dip. He's spoken about it. He's spoken about losing his dad, mental health problems that he had. And I thought that was very brave of him to speak out openly about that. And then we saw it in patches last season towards the end. The game of the Etihad is one that stands out for me, where I thought it was fantastic. And then this season, again, didn't get much of a look in. Then comes back in. Southampton game, gets a goal. And then recently, and again, another performance at the Etihad. Seems to be a player that Ollie is becoming more and more reliant on, or someone who Ollie feels comfortable bringing in, not just for the sort of the cameos in the cup games, but also for the big games as well.
I think there's something in that. I think he could be that kind of squad player that kind of fits in and does a job in games. I think he's got a long way to go to get to the levels we need him to be at. I think he's shown he's got quality, but I do think he needs to work on and improve on those things. I think that you've had RH on a few times talking about how things can develop, and I think that with Dan James getting kind of rushed into first team football, he's not managed to develop the little bits of the little bits of quality that little bit of crossing, making sure it's fine tuned, making decision making. He's not doing any of that. He's just doing what first team footballers do, which is shape, play a bit, and then you're into the game. You get one day off. You can't really improve someone when you've only got a day in between each game, kind of thing. So I think he needs a bit of that. But I think long term, whether he stays at Manchester United is yet to be seen, whether he ends up getting moved on. But he still could do a job. He's not going to have to play every week. But can he come in and give us the cameo that we mentioned? Can he come in and do the game against Man City where, look, their left back, we're going to have to press him, we're going to pin them back, something like that. Same thing against like Liverpool where they're going to have wing backs bombing on, and that's where the threat's going to be. Can he do the defensive work that I think people overlook, and I think Dan James does very well? I think there's been a lot as well since Ahmad's kind of come into the team or into the squad at least, and gone, well, why isn't he playing? Why isn't he the one? Because he's obviously technically better. He looks better. I'm like, well, Dan James does a lot off the ball that people don't appreciate, I think, a lot of the time. I think he does that in some big games. I think that Ahmad, I've not seen put a tackle in yet. Dan James, you know what you're going to get. Yes, he runs a bit headless chicken at times, but I think he does a lot of work off the ball. I think he helps out the team. I think that if we're struggling, if we're a goal up and need something to defend, I think he's maybe the one that comes into the team at this moment in time when we've not quite got a squad built to, can't do what City do and just keep the ball for 90 minutes. We're going to have periods in the game where we're going to defend, and I think Dan James fits into that system really well.
No, I agree, and I think you have got to be a bit realistic with your expectations. Dan James was he really going to come in at 15 million quid? I think it goes up to 18 million with add-ons, and be a first choice winger for Manchester United? Probably not, but he's someone, like you say, can grow into that role, be a very useful squad player. Has been productive this season. You see his stats there. I mean, they're not bad.
No.
5 goals and an assist, is it, in 22 games? I mean, okay, it's not setting the world alight, but it's a decent return for a player that is a squad player. A lot of those appearances as well are cameos. They're not, they're not starts. So I think he's doing exactly what it says on the tin. He's a squad player you can bring in, can be effective, gives you a different type of player, different type of option. Someone like you say, full of beans, loads of pace, getting in behind that left back, causing problems as well, pressing. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer obviously knows he can rely on him, and rightly so. With all that in mind, then. We'll get into predicted 11s. This is the team you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to pick for the trip to, I was going to say White Hart Lane, but it's not, is it, anymore? It's whatever it's called.
It's the Tottenham Hotspur
Stadium.
White Hart Lane, something like that. So this is my team for that game. I've gone with Dean Henderson in goal. I think this will tell us who's number one. I think this is, look, you got Tottenham.
Yeah.
This is going to tell you who's going to be number one.
Tottenham.
This is the one. This is number one. And I think Dean Henderson at this moment in time is that player. Back four, I think, picks itself at the minute. Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. I don't think anyone else is fit. Never mind that. I don't think Tuanzebe is going to step in, so I think it's going to stay the same.
Fair enough.
I've gone with the McFred midfield. I have gone with McFred midfield. Away from home against a decent team, I don't think Ollie goes away from that, but I do think that he'll keep Paul Pogba, Fernandes, Mason and Rashford in the team, and that's how I think they'll line up. That could be a bit different. You could see Pogba on the right, Mason through the middle, Marks on the left.
Yep.
Kind of a fluid system, but I think that Ollie likes the McFred midfield, and I think that he's going to keep that, especially in games against teams like Tottenham. So I think that's going to start. Pogba has to play because I think he's shown the quality. We mentioned Dan James. I was tempted to put him in, but I don't see him dropping Paul Pogba, and I don't see him not playing Fred and McTominay. I don't see you putting Dan James into that team. So that's what I've gone for. I said Marcus through the middle there, but probably more on the left hand side. Potentially Mason plays there as well. So that is my team.
That sort of, I would say, front four, but especially with Fernandes, Mason and Marcus. Even Fernandes can often be the one leading the line.
Exactly.
You've seen it so many times that we go, actually, the furthest player forward is Bruno Fernandes. People forget that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know he's not a striker. I'm not claiming that at all, but he does play in that sort of role where at times...
Well, Pogba will drop in.
Yeah.
Fernandes kind of plays this false nine kind of role, and you've got Mason further right, Marcus further left. I don't think Cavani's going to start. That would be my only potential is if he come into the team, but I'm just not sure about that.
Just before we move on to mine, on the McFred situation, where do you stand? Because Fred's a very divisive figure amongst Manchester United fans. There's some people that think he's the unsung hero of the team. There's some people think that he's just not good enough. Whenever you go on social media after a game, it's all about Fred, which is quite odd considering the amount of players we've got. He's probably the most spoken about player in the team for right and wrong reasons, and it seems to have developed this sort of, dare I say, almost Marshall FC vibe going on where you're either for Fred or you're against him rather than you think he's a decent player who can do better or whatever. It seems to be very sort of split. And McTominay often gets thrown in that because he plays a lot alongside him, because we always say McFred. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that they are having similar seasons? Do you think one's better than the other? Do you think they're good enough? What's your opinion?
I think on Fred, you said there that he's the unsung hero, but isn't good enough for Manchester United.
Those are the two opinions, that you often
I think
hear.
Both of them are right. I think that I think
not
that
mutually exclusive when you think.
I think he does a very good job in certain games.
Yep.
But I don't think he's good enough for Manchester United. I don't think he's good enough on the ball. I think that if you can improve on him, we should. In terms of McTominay, I think he's a different player. I think we've tried to, because he is this tall player that kind of plays in midfield, we kind of go, I'll be number 6, just play him there. Yeah. I don't think he does that. I think against Granada, I think we looked all over the place a little bit in that midfield with Pogba, Bruno and McTominay. I don't think there was someone that really just held off and did that role. I think we looked a bit erratic in midfield, whereas I think Fred, for as poor as he is, I think he has that role a little bit better. I think he can do I'm going to be the defensive one in this 3. I think he does that better. I don't think he's good enough. I think McTominay's more down the Darren Fletcher kind of route. I think the problem is we're talking about the Darren Fletchers and John O'Shea's of this team that realistically aren't good enough to be starters for Manchester United every week. But we've not got a Carrick and Scholes to go in there at the minute.
That's a good point.
We've got the Bruno who can do that role, but we've not got the better players to go, okay, we'll just get this up, bin these out and put someone else in. Donny van der Beek, everyone thought he was going to be that. I don't quite think he's there yet. I don't think he can do it alongside either of them. You've talked today about Declan Rice and stuff. I think he could potentially do that alongside Declan Rice.
Yeah.
With someone who is, a combination of Fred and McTominay, where he's got a bit more on the ball. He does that defensive role well. I think he could do that. But I think that's the problem with Manchester United fans, and I think with football in general at the minute, is that people have got these two opinions. Same in the goalkeepers as well. Henderson's not quite ready yet, and De Gea's the best goalkeeper ever. Well, do you know what? Maybe those two are right. Doesn't mean that Henderson shouldn't be starting, and maybe we need to move De Gea on. You know, there's more to this than who's the best goalkeeper right now. It's a project that's going to be 5-10 years down the line. Who's going to be better there? I think that Dean Henderson is going to be better down the line, but you can still argue for David De Gea that you're allowed to say that he is better. You know, both they don't have to both be wrong. That's the thing that I think everyone's saying at the minute in entirety of football, Twitter and football comments and stuff. Is just there's two polarizing points. I'm right, you're wrong. A lot of the time, there's somewhere in the middle with it, and I think that's the same with Fred, McTominay, Henderson, Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka. I think all of those players that divide opinions, there's probably a middle ground in all of it.
Yeah, and people like you say, it's indicative. Don't want to get all deep here, but it's indicative of the society we live in. You're either in or out, you leave or remain. You're either right or left. You can't be somewhere in the middle, God forbid.
Exactly.
I'm going to get onto my starting 11. Very similar to yours, but not identical. I think we've got the same back five. Again, Dean Henderson for me. I think he probably is number one now. I think the fact that Ollie came out and said, we've got two number ones, just is nonsensical. Yeah. And that for me is just saying, David De Gea is not my number one anymore, because why would you be saying that if he was? I think, you know, the amount of times the amount of service he's given to Manchester United, the fact that he was at one time the best keeper, regarded as the best keeper in the world, and now you're saying, oh, actually, he's joint number one. No, he's not. For me, it's Dean Henderson. The back four picks itself. Eric Bailly's out of the equation anyway because of COVID. Even if he was, I don't know if he's still first choice. There was a time when there was like 5-game spell where it looked like Ollie fancied Maguire and Bailly. They played very well together, Eric Bailly in particular, but that's sort of gone out the window. In midfield, I've got Pogba and Fred. You've nailed it with the way you've been speaking about the midfielders. We don't have that sort of classical number 6, really. Pogba can play in that role alongside someone. Yeah. I put Fred in there. I think Ollie likes Fred. Well, we know he likes Fred. He plays him quite a lot. And I just feel that maybe this, because he didn't start against Granada, this might be a game for him to come in and play alongside Paul Pogba. It's going to be a bit of a ding-dong in midfield. Yep. Spurs have got a decent midfield, haven't they? Some of the players they've got there. So Pogba as well. And Bruno can get stuck in. This is there's about underrated elements to their game. They're not soft. They don't mind putting a foot in and getting hold of the ball as well. I know that's not what they're mainly about, but Fred, Pogba and Bruno Fernandes will put challenges in. I've differed with you slightly. I've gone with Dan James on the right, Marcus on the left, Bruno in the hole, and Cavani up front. The main reason I've gone with that is Greenwood, to me, looked knackered on Thursday night. Now, he's young, he's full of beans, he could come back. And if he does start, I won't be shocked. But I'm just wondering whether he might need a bit of a rest, especially now the fact we've only got two strikers. Because I know you were saying Rashford can drop in, Bruno can push forward. But in terms of out-and-out actual strikers, you probably only got Cavani and Greenwood, because Rashford's a left inside forward or whatever. Martial's out of the game. And, you know, that's basically... That's it, innit?
That's it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's mad that Manchester United are down to a 19-year-old and a 34-year-old as our only strikers, but that is literally where we're at. So unless you want to start mixing it about, doing false nines and all this other sort of jazz, you're going to have to rely on one of them. So I'm going to go with Edinson Cavani. But he needs to step up a bit, because he's tailed off. People don't want to have this conversation, and you can blame it on injury, you can say he's been disillusioned or whatever, but his performances when he first arrived were much better, than his performances of late. I know he's had, like I said, injuries, and he had, I think he missed 8 out of 9 games at one point, but we need Edinson Cavani to get to the sort of levels he was when he came into the team, because, like I said, we're relying on him. He's one of our only strikers, and too often this season, against the big teams, it's missing chances that have cost us. You look at the Scousers, you look at Arsenal, you know, Cavani in particular against Arsenal had 2-1 sitter and another very good chance. Against the Scousers, we had Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes had very good chances. Bruno, 9 times out of 10, he'll score that chance, and it ended up costing us. So we need to convert those chances, because they come the few and far between when you're playing up against the big teams. So hopefully you can do the business. Move on to Spurs. Like I said earlier, Jose Mourinho, I mean, it's a very Jose Mourinho third season, even though I think was his second full season. I'm not sure.
Not even second. Is it second?
Yeah, it feels like a third season syndrome sometimes with Jose already, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Because he's falling out with people. He's upset, yet he still managed to get to a cup final, which is like
He's massive.
He's always seems to got something in his locker that goes, hang on a minute, he's not quite done yet. You can see from the form there. You mentioned the 3-0 loss away to was it I don't know, is that Dynamo Zagreb or what I say? I might be completely wrong there. Forgive me. I know Joe Hart didn't know the score, did he? He was tweeting, posting on Instagram saying well done, we've been knocked out. A win against Villa, the 2-2 draw. Yeah, that game against Newcastle, that would have been frustrating for Jose because they were 1-0 down. They came back to 2-1 and then they ended up drawing. And as you mentioned earlier as well, the North London derby loss. It's got to hurt that as well to an Arsenal team who are poor.
They are
to lose that derby when you're the better team.
We've said it this season. I think one of the things we'll look back on this season is taking 5 points off us this season.
That's a joke, isn't it?
Is ridiculous because they are really poor.
Do you know
Arsenal.
what? How many times you see that on Twitter when Arsenal play? I can't believe we failed to beat them this season.
They're
I can't
so
believe
bad.
they can beat us and drew with us.
And
rubbish.
And if we drop points to Tottenham this season, it won't be. If we draw or this weekend, it won't be horrendous. But if we lost to Tottenham, for them doing the double overs this season, a poor Tottenham team, that'll fill that drop points because teams like City have just rolled them over. They've just dealt with them kind of thing, and that's the difference. Is Tottenham aren't playing well. We need to just beat these teams, and I think that. Let's see. You're seeing their form there. The 2-2 draw with Newcastle kind of showed exactly what Tottenham are like. Not switched on to start with. Go 1-0 down. Harry Kane, one of the best players in the league, if not up there with the best player in the league.
I don't think there's any argument there. You've got to put him in the bracket of one of the best players in the league because just his numbers show you that.
He's up there with that. You've got his numbers there for this season. 41 games, 29 goals, 16 assists is scary.
It's scary, especially in a team that they're not exactly flying at the top of the table, doing okay. But he's given a phenomenal return. We know what he's capable of, and a big part of stopping Tottenham is you stop Harry Kane. I mean, I know they've got other players, which we'll get into in a minute, but that is a ridiculous amount. He's almost like their Bruno Fernandes in terms of
he does everything. Yeah. It's got to with us. It's if Bruno doesn't play well or doesn't score, we seem to struggle. Same thing with Tottenham, if not worse, in terms of if Harry Kane isn't playing, they look really poor. And I think that under Pochettino, that wasn't really the case. They probably played some good football without Harry Kane, but with Mourinho there, they need Harry Kane to be there and scoring. And if you stop him, do you stop Tottenham? That's the big question all the way through. They've still got some good players, so it's not entirely that, but a lot of it is if you can stop Harry Kane, you're doing okay.
One player they have got who we were linked with, we didn't get him. Probably for the best, if I'm being honest, although, the jury may be out on that one, was Gareth Bale. He's come into this team and had a bit of a staggered start, shall we say, but recently he's been a bit more productive, and you can see those numbers, 26 games, 10 goals, 3 assists, so every other game he's getting involved. Decent enough. Always a threat. He's got that sort of aura about him. You never know with Gareth Bale. He's always capable of producing something. Do you know what I mean? And he's still, he's not past it by any stretch of the imagination. Is he a player that worries you at all? Because you mentioned there about the fact it's stop Harry Kane. And we've always had this sort of feeling out with Spurs. It's like Harry Kane, but you've got to keep an eye on Son.
Yeah.
And now do you throw Bale into that mix, or do you still feel that he's flattering to deceive a little bit? Because those don't tell you the full story. Some of those goals have come in the Europa and stuff.
I think you have to always keep an eye on him because he's still got a bit of quality. You've seen it even when they got battered by City. There was a moment where just Harry Kane seemed to Gareth Bale woke up, went past 3 players and nearly put one in the top corner. And you kind of go, he can still do it. He's not that bad.
It seems with Gareth Bale whether he can be asked.
I think there's a bit of that.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think there is a bit.
It's like, you get a bit like, can he be bothered today?
But like you said there, we got linked to him. And I think that the way we've talked about him there is that he's done okay. He's done all right. He's been okay. Imagine if he was at Manchester United, it would be, why have we got the 350 grand golfer who's sitting on the bench? He's done fuck all for us this season. Why is he here? What have we done? We've wasted money again. Worse than Alexis Sanchez. If he'd have put those kind of numbers, 26 games, injury prone, golfer, that would have been the narrative around Gareth Bale. But at Tottenham, he's done okay. They've not been great. So, you let him off a bit. I think that that kind of sums up what it's like to be Man United.
It's
you know, this season, it's just he's not been that good.
He seems to respond a little bit, doesn't he? Because Mourinho shot corner gave him a bit of stick when he posted on Instagram in training, which is the most sort of benign thing ever. A player posts a picture of himself on Instagram in training, and Mourinho was like, "Don't know where he's got that from. That's not real." And you're like,
He's not playing.
Why are you
well
even
training.
saying that? What good will come from that? But you know, he has done okay since then. Like you say, he's still Gareth Bale in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
there's still something there.
There's still something there, and there's a reason he's on 350k a week, even if he is playing golf more often than he's playing football. With all that in mind, after everything we've spoken about, give us your match prediction, score prediction.
Oh, look at them last few results.
There you go.
That
6. I mean, you've probably seen it on the ticker as well. I think we've won one of our last 8 away games at Spurs, so it's not been a happy hunting ground for us, regardless of what stadium they've been at.
The 1-0 away win, that was Ollie's game back after there was like that 2 week off.
That was the David De Gea greatest goalkeeping performance in the history of association football. One won it.
I'm going to go match that one. We know 1-0.
1-0.
I think it's going to be that kind of game. I think apart from that one there, that 6-1 thing that we don't want to talk about, we've defended quite well in these games. And I think that if we can nick a goal, Bruno Fernandes penalty or something like that, just to annoy Mourinho. Eric Dyer fouls someone because he's good at that.
Yeah.
1-0, Bruno penalty. That's all we need.
I'm going to go with, I think it'll be a draw. Producer Cam's in me here saying 6-1. No. I'm going to go for 4-4.
4-4?
Yeah, man. I think there'll be loads of goals.
I'm putting a quid on that now.
Right, loads of goals.
Have to.
And then it'll be 4-2 at Spurs, and we'll come back with 2 late goals to get it 4-4. There you go. Why not? Who knows? Who cares really what my prediction is? If you listen to me, you've got issues. Baggers, where can people find you?
Baggers_Alex. But make sure you go over to TikTok and follow Stretford Paddock on TikTok. We had Ollie Ball follow us yesterday.
Ollie
Ball here.
Mate, he loves Andy Tate.
He loves Andy Tate. We're going to get...
That's like...
There's got to be something there.
You know what I mean? That's like when Busted and McFly got together, that, innit, eh? Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Heady days. McBusted, was it?
So head over to TikTok.
Yeah.
There could be some stuff planned. Freddie does stuff over there for us as well. All sorts planned for there. So go over to there, follow us on there, and say that you came
Alex
from...
is pulling the strings on a TikTok.
Put a comment and say,
he's doing well. He's doing a great job.
From the preview, and that's what you can say.
So make sure you're checking out our TikTok. Make sure you're checking out Baggers on social media. You know where to find me. We'll be here for the watch along as well. We'll have Stephen Howson, we'll have Andy Tate, we'll have Joe Smith as well, and we'll have all the pre-match show with Baggers and myself, and we'll have reaction. So make sure you're checking it out. Go and have a look at the members section as well. We've got some extra content. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Stretford Paddock Spurs preview. Thanks for watching.